Welcome to the Techne Automotive Podcast, aimed at inspiring the next generation of EE-related talent to choose a career within our space, whilst also supporting the current EE talent pool in making key career decisions. In each episode, we interview industry leaders to discuss their unique career paths, advice for those starting out in the automotive industry, as well as important issues currently impacting the sector. My name is Ferris, and I'm responsible for connecting automotive businesses to the best EE-related talent. We are joined today by Luca Martinengo from Triumph Motorcycles. Luca has worked for some great companies throughout his career and has varied experience working for OEMs, Tier 1s and engineering services type businesses. In this episode, we'll talk to Luca about his advice for starting out in the industry, the benefits of working in diverse teams, as well as his predictions for the EE automotive world over the next few years. Hi, Luca. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, Ferris. Really well, thanks, and thank you for having me.
No problem at all. To get things started, do you want to give everybody an introduction of who Luca is?
Yeah, so I'm Luca Martinengo. I'm a British-Italian curious engineer. I've been working for more than 20 years in vehicle world, mainly passenger cars. I've done some stints in suppliers, still for automotive, and now I'm with two-wheelers with Triumph Motorcycles, and I'm enjoying it very much.
Absolutely. And you've got a really interesting career, which I'm looking forward to going through. But before we jump into that, who's Luca outside of work?
Yeah, Luca is a very curious person. I'm a curious engineer, but I'm a curious person myself. I enjoy learning lots of things, learning music, learning sports. I love playing tennis, and we have a match that is...
we definitely have a match.
I love traveling. I love traveling particularly by car and by motorcycle, just because you can see, explore, and learn a lot. I've got a wife, 2 kids, and a dog, and they keep me fairly busy, but I'm still lucky enough that they give me time to dedicate to my passion, which is learning different things and sometimes ruining songs with my music and that really. I like listening to music, playing it, but in reality I'm not good. But it was just one of those challenges. I want to learn something new. I want to learn something where I can express myself. So I did it.
Brilliant.
And it's just this curiosity that keeps me going and running. Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, going through your career, it started, didn't it, with you did a master's in electrical engineering, if I remember right.
I did at the Polytechnic of Turin, so I graduated in Italy. Italian system is slightly different, so at the time we didn't have bachelor and master. It was a 5 year straight into what is a master degree in electrical engineering. I did industrial automation and robotics as a specific path, so very technical, of course, and did my dissertation in the CAN communication and in the protocols in general. And that kind of by chance opened me the doors of the automotive world. I wasn't too focused on, I want to be an automotive engineer, I want to get into automotive, but it was just that point in time when CAN was really growing, but there were many people who had the chance to study it properly. So I've been lucky enough to have done it in my dissertation. So straight away, I got into a consultancy firm that within 6 months placed me into Fiat, and 2 years into that, they just said, well, look, we need you, we want you, stay with us. And I just joined the Fiat group at that time as the specialist in vehicle communication, up to the point that I became their team leader for that and the responsible across the whole Fiat group, which gave me big chances to learn and meet different people, go and work with Ferrari, go and work then across the pond in Microsoft when we worked together to do some components for the Fiat cars. So that was a lucky choice of the dissertation, and which then opened me the doors of a world that 20 plus years on, I'm still in and I'm still enjoying it. That's the bit. So do you want to know a little bit of what my path has been from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So you great grounding at Fiat. exposed to Ferrari projects isn't a bad start. You left the automotive industry, did you, for a brief period,
Yes.
if I remember right?
Yeah, I did do, after having done a very technical side, still at Fiat, I thought, well, and I wanted to learn more. I want to go in and understanding how actually a project is run, how decisions are made in the business. So I went into the program management and what in the Fiat world was called project responsibility, which is a strange translation of a project accountability, which was owning the delivery of the electrical system on a series of cars. And that was linked to the fact that I did my master in business administration in the meantime. So great opportunity, had a lot of fun in delivering passenger cars. I've delivered the Alfa Romeo Mito, the Fiat 500 in North America, some commercial vehicles. And then my curiosity pushed me to say, well, I want to try something different. I want to try something outside automotive world. So I went into plastic recycling because I thought, well, let's do something good for the world. Let's do something good for the environment. I had the opportunity and I started working on machineries that allow to collect bottles in supermarket, and something very similar was already state of the art in Northern Europe, but it wasn't at the time in Italy and Southern Europe. I did that and I found out that the pace wasn't there. Something that is really, really, really great of the automotive world, which is what keeps me happy every morning and keeps me going every day, is the pace, is the opportunity to discover something new, is the opportunity. And this is something maybe a little bit selfish to point a finger on the road and say, well, I've contributed to deliver that. There are hours of my time. There is my brain into that car or into that motorcycle or into that lorry. So I've tried outside automotive and I enjoyed, but I didn't like it. It was, again, good, fantastic learning opportunity, but not at the pace, not with the opportunity that the automotive world gives you to learn and to develop and to carry on learning. That's what I find so enthusiastic and rewarding in the automotive world. So once Jaguar Land Rover offered me the chance to move here to the UK, I grabbed it. Fantastic, I thought, fantastic employer, fantastic opportunity. Software integration at that time was one of the big challenges in the passenger cars. So why not moving to the UK? And I moved here. I enjoyed it. I've contributed to launch what is called the D7A platform, so Jaguar XE, Jaguar XF, Land Rover Velar, Jaguar F-Pace, so a lot of cars. And then after a while, also doing project leadership and senior project leadership at Jaguar Land Rover. Again, my curiosity, you can see a theme here, pushed me to say, well, I've had now, and at the time I had 18 years of passenger car experience, but I need to learn how a supplier thinks. I need to learn how a component is really designed, developed, and delivered. So I had the opportunity to join Haldex and doing braking systems for heavy good vehicles as a chief engineer for system and software. And at that point, I was combining my passion for software and system and integration with the ability to be at a supplier. And we had a fantastic vision of a scalable braking system, of being able to create a platform for the future of autonomous mobility and electrified mobility. So I just decided that I wanted to try it, and it was also linked to the fact that I've always found out that the best mentors I've ever had and the best people I've worked with in the passenger cars had done a stint and a period of time as suppliers.
As a supplier, absolutely, it's a key point.
Yeah, no, you need to understand how to think, how as a supplier you develop something, why you make certain choices, all of this concept of platform and application, which then you can bring it back in the OEM world. but you learn it on why is that so important and what you do to make sure that you can guarantee that for a long time. Because as a supplier, you want to be able to develop once and deliver many times, because your costs are where you develop. And then your revenue is where you start selling to your customers. Well, that's not that different from what an OE does. You want to develop it develop it once, and then you want to apply it as many times as you can.
Absolutely.
So that was a fantastic opportunity. I've had the luck of doing some great experiences. And then as all the things, priorities possibly change. The breadth and the breadth of activities reduces. It starts to become repetitive. Maybe the big platform dreams that you had have been hit by COVID, and the dreams are all of a sudden rescaled down to a very narrow path. And so I decided, well, let's look somewhere else. I thought an engineering service provider would have been a good path for me, so I joined Tata Technologies. Again, great company. I've had the chance to learn a lot working with a Vietnamese customer, where superb pace, great vision, a lot of drive to deliver, which is again something I really enjoy. But I also found out that I'm not cut for an engineering service provider. That is me. I can work with an engineering service provider, but I want to be somewhere where I can define my strategy. I can work towards my strategy. I can inspire and develop the people within my team to deliver fantastic products for our customers, and how to make better and how to prepare for the future, which is why when Triumph knocked at the door, I just jumped on and said, yeah, of course I'm coming for a ride, because all the opportunities were there. So, and now here I am. I'm the head of electrical and electronics systems for Triumph Motorcycles. Been here now for 7 and a bit months, and I'm happy every day I go in. Every day is still a lot of learning. Every day is a chance to help some of the people who work with me, and every day is an opportunity to develop the people who work with me and increase the size of the team.
Absolutely. And you've touched on some really good differences between engineering services, tier ones, working for an OEM. To explain to the listeners, what are the key differences from your experience?
So, in the OE world, you have the chance to move and experience different aspects through the life cycle of the program.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunities to do learning and to shape the future of the OE. Something that is really important is that you don't need to be head of, you don't need to be senior manager to shape the future of the company. As a junior engineer, you start shaping the future of the company because you are bringing your own contribution. And as an OE, at the end of the day, that is your baby. That is your product. That's what you have spent a lot of time thinking, designing, and developing, and that is what you deliver and see out. As an engineering service provider, you need to have in the mind that you're not embedded into an organization that has as a target a product. You have the advantage of working with many different customers and many different products, and that's really something that is subjective. Personally, I prefer to be able to work on something where I can put my mark, I can develop the strategy, but I know a lot of great people who want the ability to move from one customer to the other and bring their expertise in designing and developing the products. And that is great.
Absolutely.
On the OE side is the depth where you need to go. And that's why, as I said earlier, the best people I've worked with in the OE side have been people who had experiences as suppliers. is because you are forced to go in depth, because there is nobody else you can say, oh, can you develop this for me? Well, no, it stops with you. You need to make the product become reality. And you need to understand how to make it, and you need to understand how to be flexible, and you need to understand how to satisfy the customers, your customers, who will then have their own customers. So very different. My personal preference is to work as an OE because I can learn more, and I have the opportunity to experience different aspect of the engineering, and not only of the engineering, but you get into the whole life cycle of a vehicle, and your product is the recognizable one. But that is me. We have all different likes and dislikes, but
it's really good insights, isn't it? And it's a good breakdown as well. Looking back in your career so far, obviously still lots to achieve, of course. Your curiosity will continue. But what are you most proud of to date, Luca? What's been your flagship moments?
Well, I think there have been a few in different areas. Of course, my first love, the first car I've seen from a white piece of paper, from a blank canvas, down to seeing the first chassis coming down the prototype production line, to the first vehicle being saleable, to the cars running on the street, has been the Alfa Romeo Mito. I was one of the youngest project responsibles at the time, and it was quite a challenge, but also I have to recognize the courage of my boss at the time to appoint me there and to say, well, yeah, you can make it. Just you'll struggle a little bit, but it's that good struggle that will help you learning. And it was a fantastic team of young project responsibles, which delivered this product that was breakthrough for Alfa Romeo, because it was the first B-segment vehicle on a very challenging timeline. But I still remember today the emotion of seeing the first chassis coming down the line, and seeing as an electrical engineering project responsible, the wiring harness were part of my team deliveries. And that's one of the first things that goes into the car when it comes into final assembly. So for me, it was, wow, what we have seen on CAD for months and months, now it's reality. Now it's becoming a car that customers will enjoy. And then we had plenty of aspects to refine and improve before we could launch it, but it's still, for me, is the first love, is the first car that they came down. But I've also had a lot of other areas I've enjoyed a lot. The iPace launch, I've helped launching iPace, possibly from my international experience before getting to that point, for my ability to work with different cultures. I've been sent to Graz, to Austria, to help the English Jaguar Land Rover team and the Austrian Magna Steyr, which is still manufacturing the iPace, to work together and to come up. And again, very challenging months, a lot that needs to be resolved. But again, it was the first time for the first time, Jaguar was building a car which didn't have an engine, which didn't have an alternator, that had a lot of components that we have never had before. So it was normal that we were struggling, because we still didn't want to wait too many years before being able to sell to our customers. So we had to learn, we had to have a steep launch curve. But when you start seeing that it's working, that people go to the showrooms and people buy, and you see it on the road, and you get given one for a few weeks to drive it and to provide feedback, that's, again, it's really a pinnacle moment of the career. And as a supplier, I've also experienced that the working directly with customers, because when you work as a OE, you work with your internal customer, but unless you are sales and marketing, you don't really go out too much with customer. Yeah, you can get stuff inside, but as a supplier, you interface with your direct customers, the one who pay your bills, and and salaries. And I remember quite emotionally was when we had the part of the scalable braking system architecture working on the frozen lakes up in Arjeplog in Sweden during winter test. Again, long hours, fantastic team, because you can't do it without a fantastic team. But we managed to get it. We managed to get superb performances out of that system. So that was a very pleasant moment, and it's all down to having had the right team at the right time, and then helping them out, really take the barriers off. As I say quite often to the people who work with me, well, use me as a sledgehammer. If there is a wall in front of you that it's stopping you to get there, use me. You are the smart people. You are the one who know the details. I'm the one who can knock the walls down now for you, so you can get where you need to get. And that was really, in the winter test, that was one of my key points. It was, I'll make you able to deliver what you need to deliver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, throughout your career so far, I love this part of the podcast. If you could go back to Luca at 16 years old, and based on everything that you've learned, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, keep studying, which I did. But it is very important. You need to be technically sound. You need to know your bits. You will get at a point in your career where you will not be able to have the depth of understanding on every single subject you are accountable for to the level that you will have in the first years of your career. But learn, be technically sound, understand what you do, develop your mindset as a problem solver, and then be curious, keep on asking questions. And something I wish I would have done earlier is, don't be concerned to speak up with people. Share your view in a polite way. You can challenge anyone in the organization. Any organization which doesn't allow young engineers or young people at 16 to challenge the status quo, to challenge that we have always done like that, are not organizations you want to be in. But learn that the vast majority of the organizations accept a polite and documented challenge. So use your technically sound background. That's what I would go back to, be curious and challenge the status quo. Because again, as a young mind and as a young engineer, that you go into an organization, well, you are fresh eyes. You are a breath of fresh air. Bring it to the organization, because the organization could possibly have a lot of blind spots that they don't know they have. So just speak up. Again, no one gets offended by a polite challenge.
No, and I've seen it. You've seen it in the pinnacle. I've heard really good stories in the pinnacle of either F1 or some hustle and bustle tier ones, where it's actually a graduate who's come through the door and offered a moment of magic. And it's exactly linked to what your statement is. Be technically sound, get your grounding, be curious, and don't be afraid of challenging.
Yeah. And there is one more thing I would say to my young Luca back, because young Luca back was a little bit guilty of this, is don't aim for perfection in today's work. Optimum is always enemy of good. You need to learn that your technically sound mind would strive for perfection. You would want to be perfect in every single aspect. That the very high risk is that you driving so much towards perfection brings you to never deliver something that is very good for your customers. So learn that there are points where you have to assess the quality of your work and understand that it is good. It is very good. And you have to let it go for somebody else to like it. And young Luca was very much, oh no, it needs to be perfect. And I was keeping my work to me because it wasn't perfect yet. And that's something that is, for me, is very important. Don't cut corners, don't take shortcut, don't put risks, but understand when something is very good and it's time to let it go. Of course, you could always make it better, but that's for another time. That's for a PDCA, that's for a continuous improvement, that's for growing. There are moments in time when you have to recognize, yes, I've achieved what I wanted. Now I give it to somebody else.
It's a great message. It's a great message. Throughout your career, you've obviously worked in Europe. You're really well travelled in the industry. You've had sometimes global teams. When me and you've touched base, and I think it's something we've discussed behind the scenes. You've witnessed, haven't you, a key synergy between diverse teams and high performing teams. So how has that blend of cultures contributed to success from your experience?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to work in Europe, North America, Central America, Asia, and to interface with basically all 5 continents, directly or indirectly, because I had the partnership with Australia and New Zealand. And what I've learned is that it is really important to have a diverse team, to use the blend of culture to enhance every team member's performance. The big risk of being a unique culture is that we have always done like that will be your mainstream, and the contamination, the positive contamination you can get from the diverse gender background, walks of life, places of origin, because it means a different cultural background, help a lot. It helps you in exploring the same problem, the same concept, the same topic from so many more points of view that you can really unleash the power of minds working together. Because if you think, at the end of the day, engineering is taking the physics and having bright minds to work around the problem, which is based on physics, and coming up with a solution that nobody else came up with before. And the problem of a unique culture is that, well, you will always look at it from one perspective. The power there is that you can start looking from all the perspective. And earlier I mentioned it by my blind spot, because we all have blind spots. Well, the advantage of having a diverse team, and my team have always been very diverse. At the moment, yeah, I think I don't cover South America yet. But otherwise, in my team, there are all the other continents. The power is that you narrow the blind spot nearly to make it neglectable. And that is, for me, extremely important to create a high-performing team, because you have a team where everybody's entitled to their point of view. Everybody's entitled to contribute because they have a different path that has taken them to where they are. And that naturally changes the way you look at the problem. And that's where you increase performance. That's where you really become creative. And that's where you really knock problems down and develop new solutions very quickly and very effectively.
It's great. It's a great message as well. And it's a very interesting insight. Talking about insights. So we look at the automotive industry now for, the next 5-10 years. Somebody's going to come into this space at a young age. What do you think's coming up from a technical perspective within EE?
So I think we can look into 2 time horizons. Close to us, functional safety, functional statement of automotive, and cybersecurity. Those are really the topics that are today the key topics for anybody in engineering, in particular in automotive engineering. And with automotive, I include all the vehicles. There is a very high scarcity of this type of skill set and know-how, and there is a huge need of it, because the electrical and electronics systems on vehicles have come a long way from when it was pure black magic that, oh, that's software, I don't want to touch it. You do it because you are the wizard. Now we have a way of robustly, systematically develop. And functional safety, cybersecurity, and SOTIF are simply contributing to build the robustness of the design. In the same way, many years ago, DFMEA did it for drawings. And really, if you are a young engineer who's decided, well, where do I get a little bit of that specialization that opens the doors for my future career? Those are the ones that today are key points, because vehicles will become more connected, because vehicles will become more automated, because vehicles will become more electrified, because vehicles will have an increasing number of features. And those three aspects, functional safety, SOTIF, and cybersecurity, are fundamental for us being able to continuously develop in a robust and reliable way technical solutions. So tomorrow, those are the three areas. There is a fourth area, which is important today, important tomorrow, but in a slightly longer time frame will become crucial, and it is the data mining. You have to think that we live in a society, in a world which is all data. We are increasing the number of ECUs, we are increasing the number of components, we are increasing the number of intelligent units that generate and use data. And of course, with a connected world, all of these data are available. But we need to understand that with this whole amount of data, we cannot do much, because you can't just consume data. As human, as engineers, we do not, in reality, if you think, we do not use data, we use information. Because pure data is raw. It is not telling me what I need. Pure data is the ability of, is very risky, because you could read it in so many different ways. There is the classic Spitfire example during World War II here in the UK, where data scientists looked at the airplanes and said, oh, those are the points where the airplanes are shot by the German Luftwaffe. So let's make those points. And they analyzed the airplanes which were coming back. And they said, let's analyze that and let's make those areas more robust, because those are the areas which are hit by the Luftwaffe. And after a few months, they noticed, so they made all the improvement. And after a few months, they noticed that, well, actually, we haven't improved the amount of airplanes coming back. And they had that eureka moment. Well, actually, those were the areas of the airplane that even if they were shot there, they would make it back. That wasn't the area that you needed to make robust. The areas which you needed to make robust was the area where those airplanes hadn't been shot, because the one that had been shot in that area didn't make it back. So they had plenty of data. They spent a lot of time measuring. But it's the information. What do you do with that data? So for me, the slightly longer timeline, the data mining, the ability to work with data. Data today is the oil, but we can't use raw oil in our cars. We need petrol, we need diesel, and it's petrol and diesel or e-fuel. Those are information. That's something we as human beings can use to make decision, and the ability to move from data, to useful information. That's going to be a big, big ability for the future, because the amount of data we are collecting is enormous.
I might be going off topic here, and excuse me if I am, but it's, if you look at the other industries at the moment, so we look at the adoption of machine learning across huge data sets, and that might be shopping trends as an example. Do you feel that the automotive industry will ultimately generate another big talent pool, which will then consist of data scientists, machine learning experts, and trying to find.
We will need to. Machine learning is a reality today. Replacement of sensors with artificial intelligence designed sensor within a software logic, which again, you train the artificial intelligence system in the ECU to recognize the values based on data that they have to replace and save money from sensors. So it is definitely going to create a pool of data scientists that will be fundamental for the future, because we have so many data that we just need to use them appropriately.
Yeah, it's a great insight, and it's something that's not talked about that frequently. So I'm glad we've touched on it. Looking at the overall buzzword trends, if you like, we've touched on software-defined vehicle, electrification. Is there anything that you want to add to that regarding how you see the automotive world transitioning?
Well, the automotive world transition is in a big transition. Clearly, for passenger cars, there is a path which has been set. For other vehicles, it's still very open, and there are different challenges given the different vehicles. Software-defined vehicles are a reality in any environment, because again, the number of features and functions our customers want, and the bright people who are designing those systems together, just make the pace of evolution so quick that it's important to be able to manage it. And clearly, software-defined vehicles are a reality and will be more and more crucial in the development of new vehicles, which clearly will bring into, again, over-the-air updates. It will bring into how do we make cyber secure, how do we avoid, and then it takes you, well, actually, when I can update, I can also get a lot of data. I can run digital twins of every single vehicle and extract the right information from that, and those right information will allow me, if it is a commercial vehicle, to heavily reduce the cost of ownership. If it is a passenger car, to make the owner or the user experience, because we will go towards, depending on the environment, mainly passenger cars. There is quite a very concrete likelihood that it will go into shared ownership and those aspects in the future. So it will make the ownership or the experience of the vehicle constantly better. And you do that because you have the ability to retain data out of the vehicles and make them become information. So those are really buzzwords, but our reality is not just something that people put on papers. Is in the automotive world today, the big thing is, how do we develop robust software? How do we develop intelligent software? How do we reduce the number of components benefiting from the amount of data we have collected and we are still collecting? How do we make our customer experience better anytime? How does the vehicle become a partner that is even more reliable than what it is today? How can the vehicle tell, especially when you go towards more commercial, to prevent a downtime, because the vehicle is telling you what needs to be done when, and then clearly will improve also the experience of the normal customer. That's definitely the path we are on.
No, it's great insight. Thank you for that. I'm going to end with the final question, the $1 million question. So obviously, from your perspective, you've had a great career, but you're giving advice to people. Why develop a career within this space in the automotive industry?
I think it's one of those industries where you can have an extremely quick learning. You can learn at a very high pace. You can still have fun, because our products, especially the one I'm working right now, but the vast majority of the products I worked on during my career allow you to have fun with the products, not only in the design, but also in the experiences. They are products and again, this is me. you can touch, you can feel, they can transmit emotions. You buy a motorcycle today not because you go from point A to point B in our world. You buy it because you want emotions out of that. You buy a sport car, you buy an F-Type. Again, it's not something that goes from point A to point B. It is because it's emotional. And that's what, for me, automotive world is creating products that customer can experience and we can deliver them emotions. So automotive, that is, as I said, is a huge opportunity to satisfy your curiosity. In today's world, you need to be curious because curiosity helps you to learn, and curiosity helps you to go into understanding what cybersecurity is, understanding how to data mine. Curiosity is something that an AI cannot replicate, and that's what makes us. And automotive is an area where your curiosity can really be satisfied, and you can push boundaries thanks to your curiosity. So it's definitely the technical challenges. It's the products that you can touch, feel, view, and they give emotion. And you can have fun, really. It's something that while you develop quickly, you can have fun in doing so. And that's why I find automotive, well, that's why I went away and I said, well, no, I miss it. I miss the pace. I miss the ability to satisfy my curiosity. I miss the ability to learn so quickly in different aspects. So,
what a great way to end. What a great way to end. What a message. And listen, thank you very much for taking the time out. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Paris. I really appreciated having a chat with you.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Luca.
Thanks.